Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, The Lack of Interesting Conversation with me, your host, Trey Mendenhall. As here in the States today, the day I'm recording is actually Memorial Day, a day we celebrate the veterans that have given their life to defend this country's freedom. I just want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. Thank you for your family's sacrifice. As I know today is a day us as a nation remember him, but I know for those who have families that have lost a loved one in the battle of war, I know every day tends to be Memorial Day for them. Let's pray that Lord Jesus, that you protect them today, and that your hand would be upon them to grant them your peace and your love and your mercy, and just as you say in John 15:13, that greater love has no one in this than to lay down one's life for his friends. As it is a reminder, Lord Jesus, that these people, even some all the way back when this country first started, as this is the 250th anniversary, we're celebrating this July of America becoming a nation. Those people all the way back then giving their lives in the Revolutionary War for us who did not even know what exists today. Just so thankful for the blessings of the freedoms which we have, for those who continue to enlist and want to preserve those freedoms that we still have today. Also, I wanted to also mention that I know in one of the previous podcasts I had talked about back in February, at this year marked the 25th anniversary of the death of, in my opinion, the greatest NASCAR driver of all time, Dale Earnhardt. This past, what I think, Thursday, NASCAR lost another one of the greats in Kyle Busch, as I know they honored his memory all weekend, as this weekend was the Coca-Cola 600, which happened to be in NASCAR's backyard there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Did a great tribute. I know Kyle, his wife Samantha, and their children were there. Just a very heartbreaking, very sad situation. I just would encourage you to say some prayers for his wife, and especially those children. It's unfortunate. And as God says, He is a father to the fatherless and a defender of the widow. Just full-heartedly believe that God will wrap His arms around that family and around that community, as they need Him wholeheartedly, more than they probably ever need Him in their life. Pray that family heartbreaking, and if anyone else in your life may be struggling with this here recently, I pray you just reach out and let them know that you're praying with them then. That if there's anything you can do to help them, I pray that you would. But anyway, let's start getting back into the topic. But before we do, I just want to say thank you once again for joining us for episode 25 of The Lack of Interesting Conversation. Almost 30 episodes of this thing. It's crazy when you really think about it, to be honest. It started all the way back after Christmas. It's been quite a ride so far. I just am so thankful, so grateful for the amount of listeners that we get and that we've had, both here in the States and internationally. What an incredible blessing and mind-blowing thing it has been. So I just pray you continue to listen. Make sure you go follow us on Facebook at The Lack of Interesting Conversation. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search up the podcast on there. Make sure you like us, comment where you can comment, share the podcast, rate the podcast, as we are available on every podcasting platform you can think of. So there's really if you want to listen there, you can, and you have a platform, a streaming platform available to you. There's really no way you cannot listen. And so go ahead and give us a listen, and I would really appreciate it. All right. I know last week we covered the NFL's schedule release, broke down some stuff about the entire NFL schedule, and then broke down the Cowboys schedule. This week we're going more the musical route, as this art, and I'm going to be talking about an artist that I have pretty much liked my entire life. As his first album, Who Needs Pictures, came out in 1999 when I was a measly 7 years old. So, we'll be talking about Brad Paisley today and his upcoming album, Tacklebox. Brad he first announced this, let's see, I think May 13th. He sent out a video. He has like many artists nowadays has like a phone number you can text. That phone number is actually 615-235-5921. 615-235-5921, where you can sign up, get notifications from Brad. He sent that out actually on Mother's Day a couple Sundays ago, that there'd be a lot of music coming, and he will slowly be rolling it out. And in this rollout, he usually sends it a day before it gets publicly released. So if you sign up for this, get text notifications from him, you will actually be able to hear the songs first before they actually release. The album cover for this is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. This is what the album cover looks like. It's like a guitar case, but with individual slots, like a tackle box had, revealing each cover for each song. There's only been 4 so far, and this will be Brad Paisley's first full-length studio album since 2017's Love and More. I know since then he has put out music. He hasn't necessarily been entirely quiet, but I also know he has switched labels. He went from Arista Records, the album that he had been with since the beginning of his career. That label is famous for Nashville Brooks and Dunn, the greatest duo in the history of country music. Alan Jackson, just name a couple artists off that. I believe Carrie Underwood was signed to that record label at one point too, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But Love More was the last full-length album to be released by Brad, which contained my personal favorite, my wife and I's personal favorite, Gold All Over the Ground, which happened to be our song that for our wedding, I believe. It's a beautiful song. Really, in my opinion, sums up the way I feel about her. And as much as I would love to be able to write a song and put it that way, I think what Brad did was beautiful with the Johnny Cash poem. I believe that's what it was. But then I know then about after he switched labels about 2023, Brad released an LP, The Son of the Mountains. Was a 4-song EP, which was the first 4 tracks of that album that was supposed to release in 2023. That contained Same Here. That song featured Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukraine president. So Many Summers, also the title track, and The Medicine Wheel, featuring Jerry Douglas and Dan Trymiski. I believe both those guys. I know Jerry Douglas is still with Allison Krauss and Union Station, but Dan is not. He is you may have heard him, he is the voice behind Man of Constant Sorrow from the Where Brother Art Thou soundtrack with George Clooney as the main character in that movie. Then after that album ended up getting totally scrapped, as Brad said he was going to start work on a different album for whatever that may be. Maybe things weren't gelling as he would have liked. Maybe things weren't coming together as he thought it should. Maybe it was taking longer than he had thought it would. But then in 2024, around the same time in September that he had really released The Son of the Mountains, he released for this new album, Truck Still Works. That was the first single off of that, what was supposed to be that album. But then that album, nothing else came up after that. And that album was supposed to be described as a sequel to Mud on the Tires, which is kind of funny because I remember my uncle telling me in her interview back in the early 2000s. I think someone was interviewing Brad backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. It may have been someone from GAC, since I know that was the home of the Grand Ole Opry for a while. Heck, it may have been on CMT, because I know the Grand Ole Opry used to be air on CMT too. But this is long after TNN unfortunately shut down the national network, which turned into Spike TV, then became the Paramount Network. Now, I think that's what it's known as. It may have changed since then, but that Who Needs Pictures Part 2 and what ended up being his third album, Under the Tire, was supposed to be a trilogy of of an album. But I guess I feel like Mud on the Tires really didn't fit the first two's records vibe. I guess I didn't feel like it was a trilogy completing those first three albums like you have in a set of movies where it'd be Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, Star Wars 4 through 6, 1 through 3. Let's see, Spider-Man, the first three. Then you get Spider-Man, the Home trilogy, the Avengers, which is no longer a trilogy, but just stuff like that. It didn't seem like it really fit and wrapped that entire era up. I guess, in my opinion, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you thought so. Maybe you never even heard of that before. But that album, as I said, ended up not coming out. And I know last year he released his second Christmas album, Snow Globe Town, which came out last fall. Then, and that was the first full-length album, I guess, from Brad with featured music, new music anyway. But this Tacklebox will be his first new album of original recorded music and does not have to deal with a holiday for the first time in 9 years. And the first single was released the day after Mother's Day. Fallen, that is the first single, the first song anyway. I don't know if he's releasing any of these songs as singles or not. But I know the cool thing is that as he releases a song, he Brad is putting each of these songs streaming, but also as he releases a song, he's packaging the other one with that song, which is pretty cool. But this song was released May 11th. You actually get to hear it the Mother's Day early, but the Monday, the day after Mother's Day, Fallen was released. This song was written with Chris Dubois, famous co-writer with Brad Paisley. Like he didn't have to be a big one that him and Chris Dubois co-wrote together. Then also the other co-writer on this album, on this song, was Frank Rogers. Frank was the producer of Brad's first 9 records that he released. So that would be like Who Needs Pictures, Part 2, Mud on the Tires, Time Well Wasted, Fifth Gear. Oh my, Fifth Gear, Play, American Saturday Night, Shoot. I think it's Hits. Well, this goes up to Hits Alive, his greatest hits record. That is the first. That is the last record Frank helped Brad produce. But in my opinion, this Fallen is definitely. I know Brad described this as this is a typical love song. This is how love felt in the '90s. But in my opinion, this is my opinion. So I feel like this is more of a throwback to the '70s style love song, and I think even from the beginning, the piano lick. I think, in my opinion, it kind of reminds me when we get behind closed doors by Charlie Rich. That was just the way this song opens. It just reminds me of this. It is basically this song's about basically like no matter how much time goes by that he all keeps falling for his spouse, his girlfriend, his lover, basically. And this is the first one. Definitely a throwback, as all these songs really are a throwback to classic Brad Paisley around that Who Needs Pictures era of Brad Paisley, that classic country sound. This one, overall, I think this song is a good one. I've listened to it several times, but I think, gosh, this might be the weakest one, even though this is what he led off with. I think it's just a good song, but I think what he's released, especially these last two, have been a lot better. Has been his best outing, in my opinion, so far. But still, I'd give it a try. Just don't take my word for it. Go and listen to it and develop your own opinion on all these songs. Anyway, then the next one, this song was released on May 13th, called "This Town Ain't Small Enough." Pretty much flipping the saying on its head, as westerns, you got these two cowboys or these two outlaws. Basically, you see them saying, "This town ain't big enough for the two of us," instead of flipping it, saying, "This town ain't small enough." That you're living in a city and it continues to grow, get bigger. You got all kinds of stuff popping up, construction happening all the time, more and more people moving in, and basically how it's become not what it wants to be used to be, and you're longing to get back out into the country and go to that small town, get that small town feeling back. This longing for that small town feel. Again, this song was written with Chris Dubois, as I believe he's a co-writer on all but one of these tracks that Brad has released. One thing I forgot to point out, that Fallen, it does not contain a Brad Paisley guitar solo, which honestly shocked me. I don't know if there has ever been a song on a Brad Paisley record, an original song anyway, that has not contained a Brad Paisley guitar solo, as honestly, that's what he's known for. He's known for playing the guitar. And again, and here he's returning to his classic sound. Here are his guitar sound doing whatever he does with his pedals. But this song, this song has a classic Brad Paisley solo, which is honestly great to hear. This one, the more I've listened to it, the more I've begun to actually come around. I wasn't too sure when I first heard this song, but the more I listen to it, the more I actually like it. And here, the third song to be released on May 15th, written with Chris Dubois. Again, this song was actually written during the Who Needs Pictures era. The song is called "Without You." And this so far is my favorite song that he's released. I remember listening to it the day before it actually got released worldwide on streaming platforms, and listened to it the following day like 20 times. I just love this song. This song fits perfectly within that era of Brad Paisley, that Who Needs Pictures. As I know he said in a video, is releasing some videos mixed in with classic 90s commercials, that this song was written during that era, during the Who Needs Pictures era. But when you had the title track of Who Needs Pictures, We Danced, He Didn't Have to Be, and Holding On to You, that there is really not room to put this on Who Needs Pictures, because when you have a certain amount of ballads already, you don't want to overfill your album with sappy love songs, which makes perfect sense. Then when it came with the part two, you had "I Wish You Stayed" and the title track, part two. Then they kind of figured that was kind of enough for that. Then eventually, this song gets pushed to the side and left in, I don't know. I know Garth I've heard him talking about this, that sometimes he writes songs and that end up getting put away in like a drunk drawer, then are there for a long time until you take them back out and they finally find their home somewhere, which "Without You" found its home on Tacklebox. And this song really I guess this song is, I think, is just a classic country song, in my opinion. That it talks about basically how I know a lot of times in small towns when couples break up, they kind of sometimes maybe one of them moves away, and one of them just that longing and that love for that person still lingers even though they are no longer together. This song kind of talks about that, even though I know, and one person moved away, get away from the other person because it just the hurt is too much. This has another classic Brad solo, but let's see, where did I put my notes? Basically, talks about a love that has moved away and that has got and that he has yet to come to terms with that because he's still in love without her. And I know the video that he also talks about this kind of opens with a young Brad Paisley being interviewed about during the Who Needs Pictures era of his career, talking about how what his hopes for Who Needs Pictures would be able to transport someone to Texas, to different types of places in the world, just by hearing the music on that record. Then the last song so far. So this is what I have. So what's been released so far, and this was released the 21st, like Thursday, I believe, earlier release 20th. No, yeah, released worldwide Thursday. These songs tracks featuring David Lee Murphy, famous for Dust on the Bottle and Party Crowd. I'm actually saying David Lee Murphy when he opened for Brooks and Dunn back on the Borderline tour. The Brooks and Dunn Borderline album that contains My Maria, Mama Don't Get Dressed Up for Nothing. They were actually at a local county fair. And that is actually how I actually got to see Brooks and Dunn twice, because they were at this county fair twice. Once here, which was about as big as they were. Then the last time I saw him was in 2000, the year after Tightrope got released, which, if you are a Brooks and Dunn fan, you know that album did not really get receive much fanfare anyway. Even though, like, I think that there's a lot of great stuff on that album, like BR30. I know they were kind of killed or the Missing You cover, but personally, I love that. I love their cover of that song. I think it's the best version of that song, in my opinion. I know it's been covered by um, Alison Krauss too, which also featured the original singer of the song on her version of the song as kind of a debut duet with him. Personally, I think that's a good one. It also contains, I think, the biggest song on that record is "You'll Always Be Loved by Me." Texas Norma Jean by Kicks. There's some good stuff on there of Kicks. I think there's a lot of good Kix Brooks material on the later Brooks and Dunn album, even though he didn't have a single for his last single was South of Santa Fe off of If You See Her. I'm thinking either that was late 98 or early 99 when that song got released. He didn't have another single the rest of their first run. So what was that? The 10 years later, he didn't have it. Was all Ronnie Dunn led singles off their albums. But anyway, this song, David Lee Murphy and Brad Paisley both wrote this song, co-wrote it with Clint Langerberg. I'm not sure who that is. But this is a classic upbeat song, country song. The beginning of this song actually reminds me Bigger Fish to Fry, which was the second to last track off of Fifth Gear, and that featured the new version of the Kung Pao Buckaroos. Who made their debut on Time Well Wasted. And the new George Jones was original part of the Kung Pao Buckaroos, but for this version was featuring Little Jimmy Dickens, Vince Gill, and Bill Anderson. For whatever reason, George Jones wasn't on there, and I'm sorry that I think Truck, this town ain't small enough is actually what I'm talking about when I talk about long sermon. But this song's about at the end of the long day work week, wanting to just get in your truck and peel off and not have a, I guess, care in the world for the next couple of days after a long week, which again is a classic country. When you really get down to it, there's been tons of songs written about this, and I know with David Lee Murphy, I know he also is featured on Jason Aldean's latest album. As he on that album, I know that Jason ended up covering "Dust on the Bottle," David Lee Murphy's biggest song. He's singing a date, kind of a duet with each other there. This, and I know David Lee Murphy, he's kind of been sparingly has released new music, solo music throughout the years, as last being in 2018, No Zip Code. Although he's kind of taken a behind the scenes approach. I know he's written quite a bit of songs for a lot of people. I think he's even written some for Kenny Chesney, I believe. But anyway, in this, what the solo, this feature, as does and the rest of these songs feature a Brad Paisley solo. But the one thing about this song, the solo actually begins with the fiddle and steel solo leading to the Brad Paisley solo, which I think is awesome. Personally, I love hearing that fiddle, hearing that steel. That's what makes a song country, in my opinion. And hearing those two instruments, you can't have a country song without those two. Even though a lot of people may think you can, but personally, I don't. And just to rally about all these songs, these are storytelling, classic storytelling in the country music genre. That's just, if you come to country music, you'll find pretty much anything, any song you can think of, any song that may fit your mood. There's usually something there. That, I mean, whether that be losing a loved one, about Jesus, about God, about your wife, your your wife, about your truck, the stereotypes, your truck. My dog died. I don't know too many dog dying songs, but there are a lot of truck songs. But that just comes with the territory. I feel like with country music, there's usually something you can find that there's usually a song that you can find that fits what you're looking for. What you cannot say the same for different genres of music. Classic, there's this another more classic stuff, classic tone from Brad, which is in my honestly, what he described this album, this would be that this album, Tacklebox, is the album that he wanted to make when he first came to Nashville, as he, I believe, in the mid '90s when he first came, as he went to Belmont University College, which I know a lot of. There's been quite a bit of country singers, musicians go to that school there in Nashville, but again, that's the 4 tracks so far in the Tacklebox of Brad Paisley's new album. Personally, I'm excited. I'm glad. I'm very happy Brad's making new music once again. It's pretty incredible since he's been off the scene in terms of new music for a while. Let's see, I think back in the mid 2000s, this is around the Mud on the Tires era. I remember seeing Brad Paisley. Actually got to see him live once, and that was at the Van Wert County Fair, which his drummer, I believe he's still Brad's drummer in his band, in his live band, is actually from Van Wert, I believe. As I know, he introduced his band, and that his band at the time, most of them, if not all of them, were from Ohio, which was pretty cool. And Brad being West Virginian himself, so that kind of makes sense, as basically Ohio and West Virginia connect like that. But it's be interesting to see what the rest of these songs are like, as I know there'll be 20 songs. There's 20 spots on that album cover of that guitar case Tacklebox, which is honestly, I think, is pretty cool design. The way that album cover is fits perfectly, as I know Brad is a big fisherman. Probably his biggest song, "I'm Gonna Miss Her," is about him choosing fish over his girlfriend or slash wife or whatever in that song. But it'll be interesting to see what else is on this album. I imagine there's more stuff like that. Honestly, I'd love to hear another, whether that would be a classic hymn or a song in that vein. from Brad on this album, as I know all the way his first four of the first five albums that Brad released ended with hymns, and with Who Needs Pictures ending with In the Garden, Part 2, The Old Rugged Cross, which is my favorite version of that song. I love the way Brad did that. Mud on the Tires is farther along. Time Well Wasted is The Uncloudy Day. I don't think there's another one. Let me look it up real quick. But I know that song is actually in the middle of that album. And it's not a complete version of that song, but let me make sure. And while that song leads into where When I Get Where I'm Going, which basically is a Christian song, then I know Fifth Gear ends with When We All Get to Heaven. I love that version of that song too. Then really Play is the last time a classic hymn made its way onto Brad Paisley's record, as I know Play is a full instrumental album out, with the outlier being the duet with Keith Urban Start a Band. But on that one is, what is that? I just had it in my head. What a friend we have in Jesus, personally. And then after that, he's kind of abandoned that, even though you got on American Saturday Night, you have No, which is basically, it talks about his grandfather and basically asking God to help him get away with something in the first, and these prayers and asking for God to save his grandpa and stuff like that, and talking about basically how sometimes when we do pray that the answer is no. But I'd love to hear something like that from Brad again. Personally, I would love a full gospel record from Brad. Personally, I would absolutely love that. That'd be day one purchase for me. But anyway, go check out these songs. Let me know what you think about them. Most importantly, let Brad Paisley himself know what you think about him on his social media platforms. Anyway, just remember that Jesus loves you, that he died on the cross for you, that his sacrifice was a way to nail your sins onto the cross. And so you may have a way to be forgiven for those sins and be washed clean by the blood that he spilled. Just thank you once again for listening to the Lack of Interesting Conversation.